When spiritual science speaks of the hierarchies and the creation of the human being, it wishes to direct our gaze away from the notion that the world arose out of blind forces and toward a picture of a cosmos permeated by beings, by consciousness, by will. According to Steiner, nothing in the human constitution is the product of accident. Every member of the human being, physical body, etheric body, astral body, and I, is the result of long cooperation by supersensible entities who stand above humanity in rank and power. Humanity is not placed at the end of an unconscious evolutionary chain. It stands as the youngest child of a vast spiritual family, fashioned through ages by the higher hierarchies. If we let such an idea work upon us, we gradually exchange the picture of a dead mechanism for a living universe. Beneath the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms, there is the human being. Above the human being begins the realm of the hierarchies. First angels, archangels, and archai, spirits of personality, then the spirits of form, movement, and wisdom, then thrones, cherubim, and seraphim. These are not poetic names, but designations for real orders of spiritual beings, each carrying its particular task in cosmic evolution. The human being belongs to these hierarchies as the youngest and lowest member. Yet precisely in this, Steiner says, lies the future dignity of man. For what is last in the sequence is destined to unite in itself the fruits of all that has gone before. To understand the creation of the human being, we must follow the earth back through its earlier embodiments, which spiritual science calls Old Saturn, Old Sun, and Old Moon. During each of these great cosmic stages, one member of the human being was prepared by particular hierarchies. On Old Saturn, when there was as yet no light, no air, no fluid, only a warmth existence, the thrones sacrificed their own substance to lay the foundation for the human physical body in its first germinal form. What later becomes dense and structured as bone, organ, and nerve existed then only as a delicate warmth organism, a seed of physicality. In this sacrifice of the thrones, we see the first gesture of divine love entering into matter for the sake of future humanity. During the old sun existence, the cosmos was no longer only warmth. Light and air entered, and with them a new phase of creation. Now the spirits of wisdom, Hierarchies, and the spirits of movement, dynamis, begin their work upon what had been laid down on Saturn. Into the warmth organism they weave living forces, so that the human being receives an etheric body. Through this etheric principle, what would otherwise remain a rigid imprint becomes capable of growth, of rhythm, of life. That the human being today can heal, grow, regenerate, carry remembrance through time. All this stems from that sun epoch when higher beings bestowed part of their own life substance into the human form. On Old Moon, another transformation occurs. The cosmic body becomes a realm of water and mist, permeated by light and warmth. Into the already formed physical and etheric germs, the spirits of form, exousiae, and other beings of the second hierarchy, weave the astral body. Through this astral principle, the human being gains the capacity to experience pleasure and pain, sympathy and antipathy, desire and fear. What we today know as inner experience, as the world of soul, arises because, in that far distant epoch, higher beings impressed their own capacity for movement of feeling into the human constitution. The animal kingdom splits away at this point as a side stream. The human being remains on a path whose goal is not merely sensation, but conscious selfhood. Only when the Earth stage begins our present cosmic incarnation does the possibility arise for the most intimate gift of all, the human eye. The beings of the first hierarchy, and above all the Christ being as Sun Spirit, prepare the earth as the stage upon which the spark of self-conscious spirit can be kindled in the human soul. What the thrones once gave as warmth, what the Kyriates and Dynamis gave as life, what the exousiae and their companions gave as soul capacity, is now crowned by the descent of the Ahtai, that center which can say to itself, I am, and gradually take into its own hands what the hierarchies have prepared. The creation of the human being is therefore not finished in the past. It is an ongoing handing over of the work of the gods to the free eye of man. If we slowly make such imaginations living within us, the human form ceases to appear merely as a biological arrangement. It becomes a script written by higher beings across aeons. The bones bear the imprint of cosmic will, the rhythmic system echoes the deeds of the sun hierarchies. The nervous system reflects delicate workings of exalted spirits. To contemplate the human being in this way is already a form of worship, not a worship of man, but of those divine beings who have poured themselves out so that a creature could arise in which one day freedom and love may unite. If we wish to understand more deeply how the hierarchies continue their work into the present and shape the very conditions in which human consciousness unfolds, we must first turn our attention to the lowest triad of spiritual beings above man, angels, archangels, and archai. Steiner shows that these beings stand closest to the human being, not in the sense of authority, but in the sense of intimate spiritual companionship. Their tasks touch directly the evolution of the human soul, for they guide, inspire, and protect what the I cannot yet carry out alone. The angel of an individual human being is not a poetic guardian figure, but a real and active spiritual intelligence. This being holds before the soul the image of what it had intended before birth. Its karmic tasks, its necessary encounters, its possibilities for moral development. The angel is the keeper of the human biography in its spiritual form. Every time a person feels guided toward a higher gesture, toward compassion instead of indifference, truth instead of comfort, courage instead of avoidance, one can sense the whisper of this companion who remembers what the human being has forgotten. The angel works chiefly in the realm of thinking, quietly shaping the moral atmosphere in which thoughts arise. What the I undertakes freely is its own, but what the I is invited to consider as good or healing often bears the signature of this gentle hierarchical being. Above the angels stand the archangels, the inspirers of peoples, languages, cultures, and epochs. They are the bearers of what Steiner calls the folk soul, not as a collective ego, but as a spiritual current within which individual human beings find orientation and meaning. Different peoples possess distinct gifts not because of arbitrary historical accident, but because different archangels permeate their culture with specific spiritual qualities: courage, devotion, clarity, endurance, imagination. When an individual is born into a nation, the archangel of that people provides the broader field within which the soul's karmic intentions can be carried out. Through language, tradition, and historical mission, the archangel gives substance to the life task that the personal angel holds in image. Still higher within the same triad stand the archai, or spirits of personality. Their domain is not the individual nor the nation, but the epoch, the great periods of history that form the background of human cultural development. Each epoch has a guiding archai whose influence shapes the particular spiritual challenges and opportunities of humanity during that age. When Steiner speaks of the Michael Age, he means precisely that the archai being Michael now bears responsibility for the leading impulse of contemporary human evolution, the task of transforming thinking into a living spiritual organ capable of truth and freedom. Through the archai, humanity as a whole receives the orientation it needs to progress toward its next stage of consciousness. But all these beings, angels, archangels, archaea, are not merely external administrators of human destiny. Their earlier deeds prepared the astral organization and the beginnings of the I, and their present activity works upon the soul, so that the human being might gradually become capable of assuming their tasks inwardly. What the archangel once gave through national community, the future human being must learn to carry within itself as cosmopolitan spirit. What the angel now holds as moral imagination, the mature I must one day generate out of its own depth. From this triad upward, the hierarchies increasingly become creators rather than guides. The spirits of form who granted the human being its capacity for independent I consciousness on earth still hover around the threshold of human freedom. They no longer pour their will directly into human organization as they did on Old Moon. Instead, they maintain the conditions under which the earth remains a suitable field for the maturation of the I. These beings uphold the laws of nature, the stability of earthly existence, the possibility for moral deed to work through earthly substance. They created a world in which the I can awaken without being overwhelmed by chaos or dissolved into spiritual vastness. Above them, the spirits of movement and spirits of wisdom continue their cosmic gestures. Though their direct formative work on the human organization ceased with the earlier planetary embodiments, their forces still stream into the earth as the rhythms of time, the sweep of destiny, and the wisdom inherent in natural and moral law. They maintain the great currents of world evolution into which the human I must find its rightful place. Higher still stand the thrones, cherubim and seraphim, the creators of worlds, the beings of will, harmony, and love. Their deeds lie at the very beginning of human becoming. The thrones giving the primal foundation of the physical body, the cherubim imparting cosmic harmony into the weaving of life, the seraphim radiating the warmth of divine love that underlies all existence. Though far removed from the realm of sense perception, their presence can be felt wherever reverence awakens in the human heart, wherever the vastness of the cosmos impresses upon the soul its moral grandeur. Thus, the hierarchies are not mythological furniture decorating the cosmos. They form the living genealogy of the human being. Every level of our constitution, our capacity to perceive, to feel, to will, to think, to love, existed first within the beings above us. Humanity is their youngest creation, but also their future collaborator. For everything the hierarchies once shaped into us, they now await from us as free deed. If we now turn inward to contemplate the fourfold nature of the human being, we begin to discern how each member bears the imprint of a particular realm of spiritual beings. The human constitution becomes a kind of sacred scripture, written not in letters, but in formative forces. What the senses see as structure, gesture, temperament, or thought is, in truth, the reflection of deeds enacted by the hierarchies through immense epochs of cosmic time. The physical body, as it appears today, is the most silent witness of these ancient deeds, its form, its uprightness, its organs arranged in harmonious relation, its laws of growth and decay. All this originated from the sacrificial will of the thrones on old Saturn and was further shaped by the beings of the second hierarchy in later cosmic embodiments. Even the mineral hardness of bone carries a memory of divine fire. The delicate architecture of the heart echoes rhythms poured into existence long before Earth solidified. The nervous system carries traces of celestial wisdom woven into substance. And yet, on Earth, this physical body is entrusted to mineral law so that the eye may awaken within stable boundaries. The gods have withdrawn from its day-to-day governance, allowing the human being to stand upright in the world as a free self. Their ancient deeds persist as form, but their living power now waits to be reawakened by human understanding. The etheric body, which Steiner calls the body of life, movement, and formative force, is the ongoing expression of the spirits of wisdom and the spirits of movement. It is through the etheric that we grow, heal, and sustain memory. Through it, the rhythms of day and night, breathing and heartbeat, bind us into the pulse of the cosmos. The etheric body is a repository of world wisdom, the symmetry of leaves, the spiral of shells, the unfolding of living forms, all arise from the same cosmic gestures that once shaped the human etheric organism on old Sun. Even our capacity to maintain identity through time, to hold the thread of our biography from day to day, comes from these beings. Though weakened by earthly existence, the etheric body still carries within it an echo of divine artistry, waiting to be recognized and strengthened through conscious life of soul. The astral body, the bearer of sensation, desire, joy, and suffering, reflects the deeds of the spirits of form and their companions during old moon. What today appears as the restless play of sympathetic and antipathetic forces within us, our emotional life, has its origin in spiritual processes of immense grandeur. Cosmic beings once impressed their own capacity for inward experience into matter, so that the human soul could arise. But in its present earthly condition, the astral body is unruly, fragmented, stirred by impulses that can either uplift or entrap. It retains its divine origin, but its form is no longer shaped from above. It awaits purification and transformation through the eye. What once descended into us as grace must now be refined through conscious moral striving. Whenever we take hold of an emotion, sublimate a desire, or transform instinct into compassion, we continue the work the gods once began in our astral organism. The eye, however, bears a wholly different relationship to the hierarchies. It was not woven into us gradually, as were the other members. It entered the human being only when the hierarchies had completed their sacrificial labor. The I is a spark of divine selfhood, a being within the being, a center capable of saying, I am, in a way no angel or archangel can say of themselves. For the higher hierarchies live within the life of the divine. They do not stand apart from it as we do. In the human, I lives the possibility of freedom, of love born not from instinct or command, but from one's own deepest being. To nurture this possibility, the gods withdrew step by step, handing over their work to humanity. What the hierarchies once bestowed as form, life, and soul capacity, the I must now permeate with consciousness, turning inherited gifts into forces of freedom. Thus, the fourfold human being is a grand interplay of divine creation and human becoming. the physical body as the temple built by cosmic will, the etheric body as the living wisdom woven through time, the astral body as the realm of inner experience once shaped by gods, now awaiting human purification, the I as the seed of a new creative power that will one day rise to meet the hierarchies as a brother being. In this light, human evolution reveals its profound meaning. Everything the gods once accomplished in us, they now silently expect from us as conscious deed. The human being must learn to spiritualize its thinking, purify its feeling, transform its willing, so that the divine work may continue no longer as gift, but as free offering. When we contemplate the vast sequence of cosmic evolution, old Saturn, old Sun, old Moon, and Earth, not as a succession of physical worlds, but as acts in a divine drama, the figure of the human being gradually comes into view as the central purpose of these cosmic epochs. Steiner repeatedly emphasizes that the hierarchies did not create the human being as one among many creatures. Rather, they shaped the cosmos itself around the possibility that one day a being could arise capable of freedom, love, and moral imagination. On old Saturn, the first germ of the human physical organization was laid down in the form of a warmth body that could barely be called body at all. The thrones, beings of immense will, poured out their own being as sacrifice. What appears today as matter had its origin in this act. There was no light, no life, no movement, only will condensing into warmth. In this first cosmic gesture, the foundation was created for a being that could one day stand apart from the divine, for only something with a firm boundary, a center, a form could eventually carry individuality. Old Saturn is thus the epoch of divine willing, out of which the earliest sketch of human form arose. With the transition to Old Sun, the cosmos became luminous. Light and life flooded what was previously only warmth. Into the Saturn seed, the spirits of wisdom and spirits of movement now wove the etheric forces. The human being here became a being of life, of rhythm, of inward flowing movement. The etheric body granted continuity, a becoming that did not vanish from moment to moment. The cosmos became a breathing organism, and humanity received the capacity to bear the imprint of wisdom within the temporal flow. Old Sun is the epoch of divine life bestowing, where cosmic thought began to take shape within living processes. On Old Moon, existence became more akin to the mists of dream. Light and darkness interplayed, reflection and inner sensation awoke for the first time. Into the physical etheric foundation, the spirits of form and their companions imparted the astral principle. Now the human being could feel. Pleasure and pain, longing, fear, sympathy, and antipathy, all were possible because exalted beings imprinted their own capacity for inner experience into the human organism. But this also meant that humanity drew nearer to suffering, for every being that awakens sensation becomes vulnerable. Old Moon is thus the epoch of divine soul shaping, when inwardness first became possible. Only with Earth does the central purpose of these preceding epochs emerge. Everything that had been prepared, the physical foundation, the etheric life, the astral sensitivity, was now to be permeated by something wholly new, the human I, the self-aware spirit. And this I could not be bestowed as earlier gifts were, for the essence of the I is freedom, and freedom cannot be given. It must be awakened. Therefore, during Earth evolution, the hierarchies gradually withdrew their direct formative power. They created the conditions, then stepped back. They formed the human body and soul, then left them increasingly to their own development, so that the I could arise in the open space created by divine reticence. This withdrawal of the gods is one of the most profound mysteries Steiner reveals. The further the cosmos progresses, the less the gods intervene directly. They become silent, as though waiting, and in this silence, the human being awakens to itself. What once would have been shaped from above must now be achieved from within. Thinking, once shaped by cosmic beings, becomes a field in which the I must find truth. Feeling, once harmonized from above, becomes a realm the I must purify. Willing, once guided, becomes a force the I must learn to spiritualize. In this sense, the entire evolution of the earth is the struggle of the I to take hold of the members of its being. The physical body resists, bound by gravity and matter. The etheric body resists, clinging to habit and unconscious rhythm. The astral body resists, swept by instinct and passion. Only through effort, through awakening, through suffering, through striving, does the I gradually become master of its house. And yet, this struggle is exactly what the hierarchies intended. For the human being is destined to become a creator, not a creature. What they once accomplished for us externally, we must learn to accomplish internally. We are to become beings who carry within ourselves the fruits of all three hierarchical realms. From the first hierarchy, the power of love. From the second, the light of wisdom. From the third, the impulse of conscious activity. Humanity stands at the point where all cosmic streams converge. We are shaped by the gods but not defined by them. We are guided by the gods but must outgrow that guidance. What the hierarchies once gave to form us, they now wait to receive back from us as freely given moral deed. Earth evolution is thus not merely a continuation of cosmic history. It is the turning point where creation becomes co-creation. If we now turn from the vast cosmic epochs to the intimate interior of the human being, we begin to grasp the full depth of what Steiner reveals. Within our ordinary soul life, the deeds of the hierarchies continue to resound. Though the gods have withdrawn their direct creative hand, their earlier workings remain active as forces within thinking, feeling, and willing. And the task of the I is to awaken to these forces, to take hold of them, and gradually transform what was once divine inheritance into human achievement. In human thinking, we encounter the echo of the second hierarchy, those beings of wisdom and movement who once shaped the etheric body. Our thoughts may appear abstract, disembodied, or even arbitrary, but in their deepest nature, they reflect cosmic lawfulness. Every time we form a clear concept, when we follow a line of reasoning from cause to effect, when we perceive order in the world, there we are moving along tracks laid down by the spirits of wisdom. The structure of our thinking is inherited. Its content and direction, however, must become free. The gods once thought within us. Now we must learn to think with wakefulness out of the activity of the I itself. Steiner calls this moral imagination, the transformation of thinking into a creative organ capable of perceiving truth that is not imposed from without, but arises from inner responsibility. In human feeling, the work of the moon hierarchies reveals itself. During old moon, exalted beings imprinted into humanity the capacity for inner experience, pleasure and pain, hope and despair, sympathy and antipathy. Today, these forces surge within us as the rhythms of the astral body. Yet they are no longer benignly shaped from above. They have fallen under the influence of the world of instinct, desire, and irritation. The gods gave us the ability to feel so that one day love could arise freely. But for this to happen, the soul must learn to purify its emotional life. Each time we transform anger into understanding, envy into admiration, anxiety into courage, the eye takes into its own hands the work the hierarchies once performed unconsciously. Human feeling becomes an arena in which cosmic destiny is rewritten through moral effort. In human willing, the deepest inheritance of the first hierarchy lives on. The will within us is dark, potent, and mysterious, because its origin lies in the sacrifice of the thrones, in the primeval act of divine will that laid the foundation for the physical body. When we act, we draw from depths that precede earthly consciousness, but the will is still in its infancy. It is unilluminated, instinctual, easily swayed by passion or habit. The future evolution of humanity depends on bringing light into this darkness, so that willing becomes not instinctive reaction, but moral intuition. This is the great work of the Christ impulse, which Steiner describes as the spiritual force capable of permeating the will from within, making it an instrument of love rather than of desire. In this way, the entire soul life appears as a threefold inheritance from the hierarchies: thinking as a legacy of the spirits of wisdom, feeling as the echo of the spirits of form, willing as a distant reflection of the thrones. Yet this inheritance is not to remain in its given state. The gods have placed their former creative forces into us so that we may one day give them back transformed. The evolution of the human being is the gradual ascent into tasks once performed by the hierarchies. Where angels once guarded moral imagination, the eye must learn to think morally on its own. Where archangels once shaped communal life, the eye must develop true brotherhood freely. Where archai once led epochs, the human being must become a bearer of impulses capable of shaping civilization. Steiner speaks often of how in the future humanity will rise into a creative relationship with the hierarchies. Angels will no longer need to guide our moral pictures. We will become co-workers. Archangels will no longer shape the destinies of peoples. Humanity will learn to carry its spiritual mission consciously. The spirits of form, who once bestowed the power of selfhood, will receive back from human beings a higher form of individuality, one spiritualized through love. This is why Steiner insists that the human being must take hold of its own evolution. The gifts of the hierarchies are no longer sufficient. Humanity stands at a turning point where inherited divine forces must become self-earned spiritual capacities. The cosmos waits for human beings to awaken, to refine thinking into spiritual perception, feeling into moral sensitivity, willing into creative love. Thus, the drama of cosmic evolution continues within every soul. The hierarchies worked for ages to create the human being. Now the human being must work for ages to create the next stage of the cosmos. If we observe the present condition of human evolution, we find that the connection between humanity and the hierarchies is no longer straightforward. The higher beings who once guided the shaping of our physical, etheric, and astral organisms have withdrawn to make room for freedom. Yet in the space created by this withdrawal, other forces have entered. These are the luciferic and Ahrimanic beings, whose influences intertwine with human destiny in a way that both challenges and strengthens the awakening eye. They do not belong to the main evolutionary stream, but they are permitted to act so that the human being may grow through resistance. The luciferic impulse works especially through the astral body. It seeks to separate human feeling from the grounding forces of the etheric and physical, lifting the soul prematurely into exaltation, illusion, and subjective light. Lucifer inflames passion, pride, spiritual fantasy, and false transcendence. He whispers to the human being that it need not labor through the slow discipline required to transform thinking, feeling, and willing, that it may leap straight into spiritual experience without purification. In earlier epochs, these luciferic forces gave humanity a necessary quickening, for without them we would never have developed individuality or the fire of aspiration. But in the present age, their unchecked influence threatens to detach the soul from reality, undermining the very freedom it seeks. Ahriman, by contrast, hardens and compresses. His influence works primarily on the etheric and physical bodies, binding human understanding to matter, to mechanism, to the belief that only what is visible or calculable is real. Where Lucifer seduces the soul into arbitrary imagination, Ahriman enchains it to cold intellectualism and a worldview devoid of spirit. He strengthens the forces of automation, rigidity, and soulless order. Ahriman works constantly to make the human being forget its divine origin, to see itself as a product of biological accident rather than cosmic history. His gift, if taken consciously, is clarity, precision, and the capacity to work effectively in the world. But without inner balance, his influence can impoverish the human being, turning thinking into a tool without warmth or moral orientation. Between these poles stands the I, seeking equilibrium. The hierarchies no longer shape our soul from without. Instead, their guidance can be heard only as a quiet resonance in the deeper layers of conscience and intuition. Whenever we strive to think truthfully, to feel compassionately, to will responsibly, we attune ourselves to the original divine intentions woven into our being. When we drift into fantasy, sentimentality, or intellectual coldness, we temporarily fall away from those intentions. Yet even these errors serve the larger purpose. Through overcoming them, the I strengthens itself and becomes capable of assuming consciously what the hierarchies once performed instinctively on our behalf. In this sense, the luciferic and Ahrimanic beings are not merely adversaries. They are the very resistance through which the I learns to stand upright in the cosmos. Lucifer tempts us away from the world. Ahriman buries us within it. But the I, spiritualized through effort, can take from Lucifer the warmth of aspiration and from Ahriman the strength of clarity, while rejecting their distortions. This capacity for inner balance, this ability to hold opposites and transform them, is precisely what the hierarchies prepared us for through their long cosmic work. They gave us the physical, etheric, and astral instruments. Now they wait for the I to tune these instruments into a harmony that reflects human freedom. Thus, the relationship between humanity and the hierarchies in our present epoch is far more subtle than in ancient times. The gods no longer speak with thunder. They speak through the quiet awakening of conscience, through the deepening of self-knowledge, through the moral intuition that arises when the I aligns itself with the world's true purpose. Each time we transform confusion into clarity, impulsive emotion into compassion, instinctual will into moral deed, we bridge the gap between humanity and the divine. And the more consciously we perform this work, the more clearly the hierarchies recognize in the human being a future co-worker in the unfolding of cosmic evolution. If we now gather all the scattered threads of cosmic evolution, soul development, and the hidden workings of the hierarchies into one picture, a profound truth begins to shine through. Everything the gods once wove into the human being, form, life, perception, inwardness, was granted so that in a distant future humanity might return these gifts transformed by freedom. The physical, etheric, and astral bodies were built for us. The I is the power through which we must now rebuild them from within, spiritualizing what was once bestowed as grace. Steiner often describes the future evolution of humanity as the gradual assumption of tasks once carried by the hierarchies themselves. The angels now guard our moral imagination, but there will come a time when humanity will begin to take over the weaving of moral pictures in the soul life of others, not by compulsion, but through radiant example, through the warmth of love that awakens higher striving in another human being. What is now the mission of the angel will then become the moral artistry of the human eye. The archangels, inspirers of peoples and cultures, will one day hand over their work to humanity as well. Already in the present, Steiner speaks of how the Michaelic impulse calls human beings to develop a spiritual cosmopolitanism, a brotherhood no longer based on blood or language, but on conscious recognition of the spiritual individuality. The archangels once shaped humanity from above. In the future, humanity will shape culture from within, creating communities founded not on descent, but on shared spiritual purpose. Even the great tasks of the archai, bearers of epochs, will gradually pass to the human being. In our age, the Michael spirit holds the leading impulse of cosmic intelligence. Humanity is only beginning to sense this, but Steiner points to a distant future in which individuals, having thoroughly spiritualized their thinking and willing, will become capable of carrying epoch-creating forces within themselves. A future human being, awakened to its cosmic responsibilities, will not merely participate in history, but generate new spiritual impulses that reshape civilization. As for the higher hierarchies, they too await humanity's ascent. The spirits of form once bestowed the possibility of the I. In the future, the human I will become a source of formative forces. The spirits of movement once wove cosmic rhythms. In the future, the spiritualized human being will carry within itself rhythms that uplift and harmonize communities. The spirits of wisdom once poured thoughts into cosmic substance. In the future, human thinking, purified, strengthened, moralized, will become a creative power that participates in the building of worlds. And beyond them stand the thrones, cherubim, and seraphim, the primal beings of will, harmony, and love. Their deeds lie at the very root of existence, and yet Steiner hints that humanity, having passed through the crucible of freedom, will one day ascend toward these heights. The I, which begins as a fragile spark within the soul, is destined to unfold into a being capable of offering back to the cosmos what the highest hierarchies once gave: sacrifice, wisdom-filled harmony, and creative love. Humanity becomes, in this far-off future, not merely the child of the gods, but their co-worker. Thus, the true purpose of cosmic evolution is revealed. The gods created the human being so that the human being might become a creator. All the hierarchical deeds, those mighty acts stretching from Saturn through sun and moon to earth, were preparations for a future in which the I stands upright, free and radiant with spiritual will. Every struggle with thought, every purification of feeling, every moral act that rises above instinct is a step toward this future. What today appears as the quiet labor of conscience is, in truth, the beginning of a transformation of cosmic significance. When a human being overcomes hatred, they alter the astral world. When they think truthfully, they illuminate the etheric. When they act in love, they resonate with the forces of the seraphim. Nothing in the moral life is small. All of it streams into the spiritual fabric of the cosmos. The hierarchies worked for aeons to prepare a being capable of freedom. Now, the cosmos watches as that being learns to use its freedom in harmony with the good. And as humanity gradually rises to meet the tasks once borne by the gods, a new chapter of world evolution begins, one in which the human being becomes a conscious participant in creation, bringing forth out of its I what the hierarchies once bestowed from above. In this picture, we glimpse the profound dignity and responsibility of human existence. We are the sum of divine deeds, and we are the seed of future worlds.